And here we are. Hi, guys. It's Michael with Literally Michael. And today I have two of my favorite people that I have met from this moment in my life, in my journey, coming across Audit and Fat Grammy. Hi, ladies. How are you today?
Great. And yourself?
Good, good,
Wonderful. How
good.
about you?
Good. Just,
Yes.
just getting through the day one moment at a time, like we all do. So, today I just wanted to take this moment, everybody, and just, we have these incredible people that have become advocates over their lifetime, and sometimes we just don't know how they got here or what brought them here. And so I do like to do these interviews from time to time just to get to know them once a little deeper and just talk about their journey and where they come from and how, what inspired them. And we're going to be visiting with Audit LA and Fat Grammy, and many of you probably know them by now. If you don't, say hello to the most incredible ladies that are out there that are doing so much work. And one of the things I love about them is like keeping to the mission, to their heart, keeping to their journey. What do they want to do? What's their goal to achieve? You know, and we talk about no more kids in Scientology, and that's really kind of like what I feel my mission is in this journey of mine. And I think Audits and Fat Grammy as well, we all have that same thing. Is like once we've heard, none of us has been in Scientology, and once we've had this affect us or came across this, we were just like, wow. And most of you in the chat today, that I'm connected because of Serge is my husband, and I grew up here in LA, and I knew about Scientology because I was in the performance world. I was an actor, child actor, and they were always advertising free acting classes and all that. And a lot of my friends that were coming from different states, they came here with little budgets, and when they hear free, of course, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get a free acting class." And so they run over there, and some of them actually entered into Scientology, and it was just kind of like, so they have all these things, but that was as far as I really knew of it. And then back in 2015, Hallmark called me and asked me to be on one of their Christmas shows. And I was like, yeah, I would love to. So I was on one of Hallmark's Christmas shows. It was back in, I think, 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And it was called All I Want for Christmas. And it was an episode where the mother and son had lost the father to some sort of tragedy or illness or something like that. And all he wanted for Christmas is for his mom to meet somebody. And so during that process in the movie, which was kind of fun, was that there was a scene where she's at this space where she's actually doing tango dancing with all these different guys. And I happened to be one of those guys tango dancing with her. And we talked for a bit, and then it switched off to the next guy. So kind of like speed dating in a sense. But the craziness of it all was that it was being filmed at the Celebrity Center in the pavilion.
Mm.
And when I was there, it was kind of like one of those moments because I was one of those people that, walked into Scientology, did the questionnaire and did all that kind of stuff and talked to people. And, I just really, when it was probably in my 20s that I did this, I really had this like, this is really not for me, get the hell out of here kind of feelings. And I did. But when I got back and I was filming this Hallmark special, when I was there, I kind of felt like I was surrounded by these people that were just kind of like looking at us, trying to say, can we get them involved? Can we get them into Scientology? And it was just kind of like this really odd feeling. So it was like one of those moments where, again, I was on their property and I couldn't wait to get off their property. And it was just kind of like an internal feeling of mine. And then after that, I just, went along with my life and, did many other things and design and do all the other crazy things I do as an artist. And, lo and behold, here I am today. Serge and I just celebrated our seventh Valentine's Day together. And it
Wow.
was, yeah, it was really cute to really like, it wasn't like how long we've been together, but it was like we met like probably 8 months before Valentine's. So we missed that year that we met Valentine's, and it was the next year that we did our first Valentine's. So we're at seven now, and it was really a fun number. I took some time to kind of dissect it to see how many Valentine's we've actually spent together, and so that was kind of my lead to my Valentine's note to him, was like happy seventh Valentine's.
Yeah.
So it's just so it wasn't until I met Serge that I started to learn more and more about Scientology and their tactics with the kids and what kids have gone through. And and through Serge, I started meeting the other kids. I met Lara. I met, you know, Natalie. Not Natalie.
Nora.
God, Nora. There you go. I knew it started Nora. And so I kept meeting all of them one by one, and I would hear their stories, and I would hear what they went through, and the abuse that they got, and once again, they just could not consent at their young age that they got pulled in by their families, and the story started like compounding for me. It's like I just kept hearing it deeper and deeper. And when I first met Serge, I knew he was always writing, he was always talking to people, you know, people behind the scenes, reporters would approach him and all that, and he would always talk to all these people, and I'd hear this, but I really never got the depth of it until I started meeting all the other kids together and started hearing their stories and started hearing that common link between all of them and their experience. And that's what really kicked off my journey to really be part of this mission, just to get the kids out. That's all we want to do. It's like no more kids in Scientology. I
Right.
think, and and people look at me when I say this, but I think, there's probably, in the very beginning of Scientology, I think there was probably some really good things that were there for people to have self-expression, expansion in their life and alignment and all that. But, somewhere along the line, it kind of went askew. And it's just like when it brought the kids into these dangerous situations, it was like it should have been stopped then and just let the adults do what they want to do. And I'm all for people doing what they want to do. We're all adults. We get to make choices. We get to make our own choices. So with all that said, the first thing I want to do is I want Audit, take a few minutes, introduce yourself. Then Pat Grammy, you take a few minutes, introduce yourself, and then I'll start asking you some questions. Okay, so Audit, you have the
Okay.
stage.
Hi, Audit LA. I am, advocate, protester. It started out with, I've been very active in my community for years now. I moved out here in '07, and then probably around 2014, I became active with LAPD and the neighborhood council system. And I was introduced a little bit to Scientology, if you want me to talk about that later, during my CPAB with LAPD years, and I didn't like what I was seeing, and I ended up leaving CPAB, but still working with um, the neighborhood councils. And do you want me to get into like how I came here, or is that good?
No, that's good for right now. Let's jump
Okay.
to Pat Grant. Let's have you just kind of like, tell us a little bit about your background and how, same like Audit.
Okay. Well, how I got involved was being stuck in bed from an injury from blowing out both of my shoulders. A lot of people do know the story. I happen to be a paraplegic, so my shoulders are incredibly, extremely important to me because they are my legs, essentially. And when I blew them both out, I wasn't able to move myself around, even in my own manual chair. So I got stuck in bed watching TV and saw Scotty on there dancing around in his little Kool-Aid outfit. From there, with Streets and getting to know Audit, getting to know, hear the stories of Serge and Lara and Nora and Liz and Amber and Dylan, and throw more names in there. But listening to and realizing my growing up was with a mom and dad that still gave each other googly eyes and kissed before both of them passed. I mean, they were just so much in love and showed us so much love. To see the abuse that these guys went through and not having sympathy for him, but empathy for him, and understanding the love that they didn't get to grow up with and that they were denied. And just no more kids in Scientology. Let's get the justice for the kids and justice for the kids that are going through it right now. And that's the mission. That's the goal. And
And when
I have
you
to say, I see Nora in here. She's the little sister I've always wanted or never wanted. I'm not too sure which on what day. But I just, my heart just goes straight to them.
Yeah, for me, it's like when I started hearing all their stories, and one of the first people that that I met was Laura, and she was over here with Serge, and she started singing, and I heard how incredible her voice was, and I was just like going, "Oh my God!" And then when I heard her story, I was just like, "Oh my God," and it's like so. Let's move on here. Audit, when you had discovered all these people out there protesting. I remember the first time that I met you was up on Hollywood Boulevard, right? And
Correct.
Serge had met you by then, and Serge was telling me, "Oh my God, you're gonna love Audit. You guys are gonna do so much together. I could just see you two together." And and I was just still getting new. I was newly introduced into this whole protesting side of it all, and I was there to support him, and I'd always go and support him all the time to be there for him. So whenever he would go out there, I'd always try to be beside him and just to be there just as support. And then that's when I first met you. So when you first saw this, what was the first thing like, I know you've done a lot of stuff in the city, you've done city work, you've done a lot of different things with your time and what you do in the community, and you've done a big community, you're a big voice in the community wherever you stand. What pivoted you to this moment to say, you know what, this is going to be a community that I want to support? And what was that moment for you? What was that like for you?
Well, it started out with me coming there out of curiosity. Because I was following Will back in his police days, just the police stuff he was doing, because that's what I was interested in. And I went down there because I'm like, this is curious. It's like the Constitution and freedom of religion, freedom of protest, freedom of speech. All these things were converging at one thing. So that brought me down there. But then I started. I had no intention to get involved at all. Just I was just watching. But then I met Laura first and spoke with her, and I was like, really, I couldn't forget what she said. It just really, it was. And then I met Serge, I believe, within a couple of days, and that did it for me at that point. After, and I have still the interviews. I think that most of them are on TikTok. 'Cause I ended up putting them on TikTok. I filmed it. I wasn't going live, I don't believe, but I was convinced at that moment, like, Serge really, the stuff he said, I broke down, and I don't know if I cried like on the outside. I try not to, but on the inside it broke something inside me. And I said, this is it for till it's done, whatever. I am committed to this cause. Like, I just felt like something, like, it's like, this is your mission, this is your, you know what I mean, like, what God puts us on, in my opinion, God puts us here for a reason. And I felt at that moment I found my reason at that point in time in my life. It was just, and then,
Very.
yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, and and it's beautiful how these moments happen because we never know how we get where we get. But the universe, if I always say we have a physical body and then we have a spiritual body, whatever that spiritual body might be. But when those two are in alignment, it allows our life to do this. And when our life is
Mhm.
doing this, we end up in these incredible spaces that we never expected to be in because we're really letting, and it really comes from within. Is we're letting our intentions of what we want to do in the world in our lifetime and the universe to kind of come together and kind of just paved the way for us. The things I've done in my life has been really magical. I've done a lot of fun things in my life, and it's just been because I really try to find that alignment with my spiritualness, whatever that might be, and my personal soul. So, and Mona, what was it for you? What was that for you like? Like when you're sitting in bed, your arms are locked up, you come across Scotty, and all of a sudden you start to hear this. When did you know that you're like, oh my God, I need to be here. I want to be here. I want to help.
Well, the exact moment was the day that they were protesting down at the Blue and the help sign came in the window. And when the police were called, the police came in, they talked to the security office. Security office says, "Oh, everybody's fine. Go ahead, go away." And they just left. Like no importance whatsoever. And here there's somebody that could potentially really truly be abducted and being held against their will, and the police just kind of, and so the corruption just blew my mind. Besides the stories, it was almost like it was an evidence of that. And then the next day going to the police commission meeting, talking with the police commission, and then begging um, Mindy like hell to get me involved with Audit, to introduce me to Audit and you, and finally getting that invitation to meet. And Audit and I just, uh-oh, where'd you go, Audit? We just, we
Oh,
clicked right away.
oh,
Okay.
there she is. Okay, here she is. She's back. Yeah,
And
okay.
we both have the similar backgrounds in government and meetings and knowing the corruption, and knowing all of this information business wise also. And I just felt like it was almost a God given thing that with my background knowledge, it was leading me to this, and to be able to be a use for the kids who you call the kids. And it kind of got us calling them the kids too.
I know. I try, some people are like, "Well, Michael, they're not kids any longer." But to me, they're like they are the kids. To me, they're the kids, and that I want to embrace and I want to hold and hug and just be
Yeah.
able to let them know they're okay. I mean, when Liz did that chart, that
The
roll of all
receipts.
the receipts of all the
Hmm.
kids, and we were around the celebrity center, and they were walking around the celebrity center. That to me was another one of those pivotal moments where I was just like going, wow, look at all these kids that have been affected by this, and look at all the kids that are no longer with us. And and I see these kids, they struggle, they've done such an incredible job to be where they are today, and they have incredible lives. They have families, some of them have kids, and they're married, and it's just so beautiful to do it. But there's still that piece of them that I see every once in a while that shows up, that they still, they fight with that moment of, like, that one time we were at the celebrities, was it, no, it was downtown, I think it was, where Laura saw her dad,
Hmm.
pushing a cart, and
Hmm.
she was screaming out to him, and the fact that he didn't even acknowledge her and just kept rolling, it just crushed me. I was just
Hmm.
like, how can a parent do this? And then to hear all the other stories about the parents and of the other kids that are out there, and the stories they talk about their parents and their uncles and their grandparents and their aunts, and it just how it's so systemic throughout Scientology with these adults. It's like and I'm sure when maybe in the very beginning, the adults, they thought they were in there just to help themselves and help their family and just make a difference in everybody's life, like we all do. We want nothing but the best. So going in, maybe their intentions were, nothing but the best, but just,
Right.
not to see, yeah, right? Not to see what's going on right in front of them and say, wait a second, something's not right with this, and be able to call it out. It's pretty frightening that that exists even to this day, but it is what it is. And that's why we're here. That's why we're all here. It's just to bring awareness. Audit, when once you started digging in and you started, really really, discovering all this different information. Like you said, you started with streets, you've been following streets, and all of a sudden there you are, in Hollywood, just to kind of check it out. Was there any personal connection to what you were learning?
Yes. Well, I realized that I wasn't really a protester per se. I wasn't really comfortable out there doing that. And I just, I said, what I know is meetings and the city and LAPD and all that stuff. So I started like, and then my recollection of my little experience with Scientology on the CPAB. Basically, the head of the North Hollywood CPAB came in. It's you would say it. She goes, our job is to get on boards and commissions and all this thing to, for on behalf of Scientology. That's our job. And I thought that was weird, like, but then I just saw how, like, they were constantly giving, the space to LAPD for everything. And even though the community, like, say there was a community event and the community was saying, we don't want it at Scientology, we're not going if it's there. Like, they didn't want it. It was a new Scientology. The community was not welcoming. They were not happy with it being there. But the then captain was like, well, I don't want to hear it. Be quiet. This is, they have state of the art, facility. They're giving it to us. And then I noticed this a lot of that. And I didn't like it. and that was the beginning of the end for me wanting to be on CPAB. But when it comes to this, as far as why I'm choosing the route I'm choosing, is like I'm not a protester. I'm an advocate, and I like to do. Like I said, I've been involved with doing meetings for many years, with the police, I've been involved with them for many years, and and doing whatever like CPRA and all that stuff. This is stuff that's normal to me and common for me. So it's just like let me do what can I do in this fight in this in this situation that is true to me, and who I am. Like, where can I best contribute? And it's like, yes, I can sit out there and maybe hold up a sign or, protest and say stuff. And it's not like I haven't, and I would, but it's not really what I feel. I feel comfortable knowing what I know, doing what I do, because but now it's switched to Scientology and the corruption. Like it's really exposed how much corruption. I knew they were embedded, but I didn't know how deep. I mean, to the point where the
Mhm.
city can't get rid of some planters that are not ADA compliant. That's what really got me on fire too, is just saying, okay, they are really too plugged in. And we're not going to be able to rescue the children if we can't get rid of planters. You know what I mean? So it just really made sense to me why I had to really just dig into what I do, who I know I am, just for myself, and just be me and just do what I have to do. And and ask
Well,
everyone else
I
to come along with me and join me in it.
Right, well, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love, and we see you out there. We see you in the meetings. We see the direction and and your tenacity is just untouchable. You just keep going and going, and you yourself, you're in a wheelchair yourself as well. So that, there's that, that doesn't stop you, which is like to me, it's like I just feel so honored just having you guys in my life and seeing what you guys are doing. Do you find the same thing, that Grammy? About, like your past, what you were doing, where you were before, and you're able to bring this. Did that kind of mold that direction where you are today?
100%. Well, as a business owner and then a general manager of a very large business, I've started and still sit on a corporate nonprofit board, been on it for 25 years, and we do many, 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 many millions of dollars worth of stuff. That's brought in workforce development. That has brought me with the knowledge. And then you add on my disability and all the federal work I did for the ADA and the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, that helped me round out my information that I can bring to the community. I know I've done several videos of people with disabilities and how a lot of the kids, a lot of the people that were in Scientology are now actually federally disabled. I'll give an example, like with Liz Ferris. She could go get through the Department of Oak Rehab all of her schooling paid for. And I keep harping that I know they don't think they're disabled because they're not in a wheelchair, but actually they are through their emotional and their cognitive disabilities. And so bringing that type of information, it's just another tool in the tool belt. And I think Audit and I bring diverse information into that tool belt. So
Yeah, which is
yeah,
which
I
is
do.
so. I say that all the time. You guys know I have the pet company, and I always talk to my clients in the pet thing when we're talking about their dogs and all that. I'm like, you need all sorts of tools in your toolbox, and
Mhm.
what both of you bring are these incredible tools that you've had throughout your life and developed throughout your life, like you're talking about, and you're bringing it. And I've seen that, because like what you said, Audit, you said like, I don't consider myself a protester. I feel myself as an advocate. I'm an advocate as well. I feel like we are reporters. We're here to bring the truth out and bring to because like what stuns me today, and I'm just as guilty of it because like before I knew Surge, I just knew Scientology was over there and never really gave it any much thought and was living my life doing everything else that I was doing in the world. But once I met Surge, I started really hearing the nitty gritty, let's say, about what was going on or what's gone on or still going on. But it's like we need all these different tools in our toolbox. And it's like, did you, like, at what point did you audit, did you find like, yeah, we see you on the streets all the time. We see you out there, being an advocate, which some people may look at as a protest or whatever, but being an advocate. Um, at what point what was the moment that you went, aha, you know what? I know all this stuff and I've done all this stuff. I'm going to pivot what I'm doing and dive deep into it. What was that moment? Was it right in the near beginning, or did it take a couple of months for you to like kind of absorb everything that finally you said, you know what, I'm going to start going to the meetings. I'm going to start going to what was that moment for you? Do you remember
To
that?
be honest, yeah, I do remember precisely. It was when the planters were put up,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was going to go to 1, 2 meetings and say, they're not ADA compliant. That that you're the city, you're responsible to make sure it's ADA compliant. This needs to be fixed. And we see how that's going. We're having 8 months later. So that was my pivot to really dig deep and say, and because that's when I started seeing, oh, the safe pointing it, and I started, well, and I'm very curious. I want to know why. Why isn't the city moving it? Why isn't, and so that's when I start really, that's what
Yep.
triggered my desire to do the CPRAs, to do a deep dive to find out the whys. I need those answers. And I'm still digging. I'm always going to keep digging until I know, because I want to know why Hugo's office isn't doing it. I want to know why LAPD isn't doing it. I want to know why the fire department's doing. Everyone seems to be bending the knee to them, and I'm like, is it because they're afraid of them? I'm finding out it's because they harass the heck out of the local government, and then they're on all these boards. They build these relationships. They give gifts. There's so many reasons, but it was that moment when I realized that disconnect. That okay, they have a lot more influence than I realized, and that's
Yeah.
where that trigger. And then I realized that, like I said earlier, okay, we're there for the kids. That's the main thing, is but I like, if I can't get a planter off of L. Ron Hubbard Way, how
Right.
am I going to get a kid out of the blue building? It's just, so for me, it just made sense. And it's just, for me, I see it as a way to pave the way, like the domino, the first domino, and then it's just going to build from that, hopefully, you know.
It's the
I
first planner.
apologize,
Poof,
you guys.
poof.
We have snoring dogs. I'm sorry. They're
Oh,
it's just
I love snoring dogs. No
we love
apologies.
snoring dogs. This is
Yeah,
my little snoring dog right here, Mr. Robertson. I don't know if you guys can see it.
I love it.
Um, and what about you, Grammy?
my well, we talked about this a while back, and then Audit and I, honestly, we talk probably more than I do with my own family. Audit and I talk all the time.
Yeah.
And we kind of had this strategy and idea that we were going to do the micro macro approach, to where since she's there, she's boots on the ground. She knows in the micro level where we need to get our fingers in to tear apart the tentacles of this damn OSA Scientology octopus. And then on the on the macro level, I'm working on the FBI, the Homeland Security, the IRS, working on the bigger state pictures. So that way, between the two of us, she's going bottom up, I'm doing top down,
Mhm.
and it started working, and it's been progressive. And I listened to Audit, because I didn't think going to the meetings at first. I'm like, nah, I don't really want to go to the meetings, but she's freaking right. The girl's got some fire. She's got some brains about her. She was freaking right that that is the way we needed to approach it first. And it's been working. I love the CPRAs that are coming through. She's the CPR whiz. So she gets all the information, but then we can use it and we can see, yeah, all of this stuff has been happening behind the scenes. We
Mhm.
just don't see it. We kind of feel it, but we don't see it. And it's been almost to the point like you might as well go smack your head against the wall sometimes. That's what it feels like. It'd be less pain, probably. But there has been stuff going on behind, and we have been getting wins. And I'm just in awe of Miss Audit. And I noticed that
Yeah.
literally Michael, and then Audit, and then Fat Grammy. So we're literally Michael AF.
I love that. I love that. See,
Oh, well,
see how
that's
your
great. I
mind
love
works.
it.
it takes that, it takes that kind of mindset to be able to like put that stuff together, especially what we were dealing with. Because like one of my questions, like what were the challenges or obstacles that you guys came across, but you're just talking about it. You're just saying it's like, wow, we saw this, and then there we see Audit out. At these meetings, and she's like telling everybody, "Come." The voice, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we see that that's happening. And a lot of people, I remember when I first, got together with Serge, it's like I saw him always just typing away and just writing he's just a writer and he continues to write his experiences. And and it's just like, and when I started seeing all this, I was just like going, wow. But, and every time I would see like maybe a reporter, we were on vacation once and a reporter reached out to him to do an article, and the whole vacation he was in the car on the phone with this guy. And like I saw all of this time he was doing, and by the time the article came out, it was nothing what I heard in the car. It was kind of like they kind of like iced over a lot of little things, because that they don't want to, I see that they don't even want to speak out sometimes against Scientology, because or bring the real
Hmm.
truth out, because people are, they know their tactics. Scientology has got these tactics where they just, they come after people, and people know that. um so
I'll let Audit answer that, and then I have a little bit more on that.
Okay,
That's
go ahead,
I'll
Audit.
let
Yeah,
Audit
go
answer.
ahead.
Well, and the feeling's mutual for Mona, man. She's one smart lady. I go to her when, she is, everyone follow Mona. I'm serious. And not that you're not already. But for me, I feel like the media thing is a valid question. And I feel that we've become the media. That the media's not going to do it. They're going to do maybe a story here and there, but they're scared. They're whatever you want to say, save point, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We have to take responsibility for getting information out and for being the media. Everyone is the media. Like, we have the right to press, right? It's a First Amendment right, and to press means that you are the press. So on, all of our channels, we're getting this message out. We have this right to do it, and and it's such a great tool. We need to utilize it. And they hate it because we're not bought by. There's no one putting advertisements on us that we had to. There's no one telling us, oh, do this or do that. No, we're getting at, we're showing it, wherever we are, at the protests, at the meetings, whatever we're doing, we're showing the reality, we're talking about the truth. And I know that bugs them more than anything, and they would love that to stop. And as far as what you're saying with the CPRAs, it's absolutely true. We are getting the receipts that how much they push the different entities to do their bidding, to get rid of us, to, and the bad mouth us, slander us, and for them to bring charges, or to, and I think a lot of what we see with the police and the city attorney and all that activity, it's not so much that like they're bought and paid for. I really think that Scientology bugs the heck out of them until they finally relent and say, fine. That's how I feel. I mean, I could be wrong, but seeing them bug and bug and bug, they just pester. And then you see, then all of a sudden you'll see some kind of thing happen, or, that where it benefits them. But it's a relentless thing, but but we're getting this message out.
Yeah. Well, and like what you said, I think I shared this the other day with you guys when we were online talking. Is like, when I got attacked and I was behind the curtain, one of the members of Scientology that we see all the time there, and I don't know his name. You think I would by now, but we just meet so many people all the time. Um, he was screaming. He was screaming at the police chief, like a parent with a child, or I don't know how you want to frame it, because a parent with a child should not scream that way either. But he was screaming at the police chief saying, "You've got to do something." And the police chief just kind of like threw his hands up. He goes, "Look, I'm trying to do everything I can, but they're not doing anything wrong."
Right.
You know, and so just to your point, it's like they just attack, attack, attack. And how often do I hear so many people say that they don't even want to be near Scientology, have anything to do with it? And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
they've successfully created accomplished their mission that they set out to do, is like to put people in this fear. But what's happening, like what you're saying now, and like I'm gonna start calling you Mona. It's hard for me to call you Fat
I
Granny.
don't.
Okay,
I don't care.
I
I
know.
don't care.
Um, is the fact that you know the big news outlets, yeah, they've got so many members inside that they have to get everything approved by before it goes to, before it goes to the final edit and out into the public, that a lot of times so much gets pulled out of it. But we're independent journalists.
Mhm.
If you
Yes.
really look at it, that's what we're doing now. And we don't have to answer to anybody. We get to answer to ourselves. And, my whole thing with myself is to have integrity with my words. So everything I say, if I'm going to say something, I know that it's true, or, at least to the nth degree that I believe that it's true, I'll say it. But if I know that it's wrong, I'm not going to say it, or I'll even say that it's wrong, whatever. We all make mistakes, but we don't get shut down by the big corporation above us in the media outlets saying, no, you can't say that, you can't do that. And I think that's been the most powerful thing with our words and our lives that we have out there and sharing this information that we're discovering and uncovering. One of the things I was saying earlier that I didn't finish, because I get sidetracked because I get so excited about what we're talking about, because we are making a difference with the
We are.
what everybody's doing. If everybody just stays focused on what their part of their mission of why what brought them there. I invite everybody in the chat, if you guys haven't hit the like button by now, and if you're not following Mona, or if you're not following Audit, if you're not following me, please follow us. It just helps us just get the word out there, because one of the things that I was saying earlier that I didn't finish was that even today when I'm out and about and I talk to a lot of people, I'm in front of a lot of people all the time. I don't, and I start to ask them and they're like, oh, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? And I tell them about, my advocacy for the kids, the No More Kids in Scientology. And then I talk about my advocacy for pets and just, and my art and all that. When I go to Scientology, a lot of people, they know that they're there like I did, but they really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And that's why I think it's
Hmm.
so, so important that we have these conversations and that everybody continues to do what they do on their channels to bring the awareness, just so that, and then, I always tell people, in the chat too, is like, if you have a friend that you've talked to that doesn't know anything about Scientology, share us, share everybody, share the people that are bringing the information to the table. Don't get distracted by all the other craziness that some people get distracted by. Let's stay focused and just share what we really, if you look at what Serge has been doing, is he's been writing down all this information on this one app, and it's just been so incredible to watch him get into it. And he reads it to me and I'm like going, it's information, it's what we want the public to know. So everybody, we're all doing our job here. It's not even a job, it's our passion, just to get the word out. What do you guys think is the common misconception that you've come across about Scientology with children?
Well, well, for me, I think people think that, okay, maybe it's a little bit a kooky or weird, but you know what? That's their business. And that I think that a lot of people, they know it's a cult. Like, they don't deny that. But I think they don't realize how dangerous that there's just the intrinsic acts of worship. Say, I don't even know what to call it. Auditing. I know it's called auditing, but is that an act of worship? Whatever their religious practices, they don't understand that it is inherently abusive to children. I think they don't also understand the fact that everyone who's not like, if you don't toe their line, you're separated. It doesn't matter if you're family, it doesn't matter, child, parent, whatever. They don't care. It's their way or the highway. I don't think people understand that, and I don't think people understand. I think they know that it's a big money, and it's just it's kind of eccentric because of TV stars, but they don't realize how many lives are destroyed. They don't realize there's like a RPF, and I call that like a jail system, a correctional
Hmm.
facility, and a court system that and a prison system. Basically, they don't understand that there's human slavery. Like like people don't realize that there's people working 110 hours a week for $47 as a religious experience. Um, and it's just they don't understand it. And so as we're starting to say this stuff, I get, like, at Public Works, I get looked at funny when I start mentioning human slavery in America, because they're like, like, stop, like, they call me off topic. I say I'm not off topic, because there is human slavery in America, and it's right there at Scientology.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Mona, what's your thought on that?
The
What's
biggest
the comment? Yeah.
misconception is the face of Scientology children are Travolta's children and Tom Cruise's children and the celebrities' children, and they see them as superstars and good little kids and quiet and well-mannered. And yeah, they probably are quiet and well-mannered only because they're totally manipulated and brainwashed through the doctrine and the tech. And the doctrine and the tech is abusive in every state of the union. Doctrine in tech is horrendous on children. So that's the biggest misconception. It's because they are taught little children and they're schooled in the L. Ron Hubbard way. And in reality, they're being brainwashed and abused no less than children of abusive moms and dads that are hitting their children. Same thing. They're still, it's indoctrination, it's grooming.
Yeah, it's good. Well, in the very beginning when I heard the RICO Act and all that, and I started looking at that. I'm like, does it, of course, we all at times will go, well, how is that affected? How's that being affected with the kids here? And when I start talking, but then when I start to hear these stories where kids lived in a different country and they were brought over here from Australia or England or whatever country, and all of a sudden they've been trafficked over here, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in this horrific situation. These stories I've heard, it's just, it's horrific. It's like there is so much, like you're saying, the trafficking and the RICO and all that. It's so right there, and it's like to break this down. But once again, it's like, how come the public doesn't know this? It's because Scientology has done a great job in hiding all this and masking this. But I think that's the difference where we are today, is the fact that because we are doing what we are doing, all of us. It's not just me. It's not just Serge. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
you, us here on this show, on this channel right now. It's everybody that's out there that has given their time and given their passion and being able to pick up what they can pick up and carry and bring it to the public. It's like, it's so beautiful. Even sometimes, we see a lot, and this is frustrating for me. And I don't want to go deep into this, but I just wanted to just touch on this, is the fact that, I always talk about playgrounds. We all get to choose what playground we want to play in, and the people we want to play inside that playground with. And there seems to be, in this last year, there's been a lot of like people just like back and forth at each other. And I'm like, you guys get out of that playground, find a playground that's better, that's healthier for you so that you can stay focused on what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to like say they're doing this wrong or they're doing that wrong or it's not about that, and that's the thing that, upsets me from time to time, is when I see this noise out there, and I call it noise. It's like, it's unnecessary information. It's unnecessary. I mean, if all that energy was put into where what all of us are wanting to do in helping the kids, we could even be further along right now if we would have taken out, 80% of that noise or even 50% of that noise. So that's one thing that I just like always say. It's like, always take a look at the playground you're in and say, is this the playground I want to be playing in? Is this what I want to represent myself as? So it's like, and you guys have done such a great job in just sticking to what you guys are doing. Um, what has been, I'm going to go to you, Mona, first. What has been an emotional impact that this has been on you emotionally, spiritually, since you've started, advocating
I,
with this?
I have a good answer to that. There's of course the intrinsic value of it. That's emotional and spiritual, and I value that to my toes all the way to the top of my ears. What's been frustrating and has made me want to quit more than once, and I've really had to pull myself back into it, is the trust level. And the trust level of the people that were in Scientology, of trusting you and trying to gain that trust, gain that respect. That's been really, really, really hard. But then also, like you were just talking about, people talking about one another, calling each other POSs, trying to gain trust back and forth. When when people do that, and I don't, I hate that. Has nothing to do with whose side I'm on. I'm on the side of no more kids in Scientology. Period. If you're not on my side, I question your side. But not to go there. But when when I'm listening to negativity and drama, it lowers my respect for that person, and it's hard for me to gain that trust back and to gain that mutual respect. And so when I'm telling you, Michael, I need to sit, I'm going to throw a couple of names out there. Just, no, I'm not. I need to sit at so and so's table because I need information, or I need to do my job, or I need to fulfill what I'm doing. Then you need to trust me that I'm not going to get sucked into the drama part of that. I'm doing it for a reason, and I'm going to trust you to trust me. We're going to have that mutual respect for one another. And that's what we need back. That's been so disheartening to have to play those silly schoolyard games of whose sandbox I'm sitting in or whose lunch table I'm sitting at. When please trust me, respect me, and I'll respect you. I'm not going to say bad things and call you a POS either. That's not the game we're playing. We're playing the game of no more kids in Scientology. And it's not
Yeah,
really a game, it's a war.
yeah,
They've declared war on us. Scientology declared war on us. So it's not a game. It's a war. And just having the mutual respect between us has been a wonderful home. It's
yeah.
been a wonderful landing spot. But to me, that's been the hardest part is the respect and the trust and keeping that within those that I need to work with. And
Yeah, and
I have found all sorts of friends. I mean, don't get me wrong, but that's been really, really hard.
well, yeah, because like, especially this last year, we've seen such disruption between the people that have who started being advocates in the beginning on YouTube and all that, and we just see this like nonsensical arguments and all that. We're like, wait a second, guys, where's our mission? So I understand it, and then once once we see that, then we're like, and then they come back to us, we're like, well, wait a second, where are you today? You know, are we going, we're walking in this direction? Or are you over there making this direction? Oh, you're over here today, but then a few days later. So yeah, so I totally get that. What about you, Audit? What do you think?
Can I add
Well,
one more thing real quick
Yes,
before
yes,
you do
yes,
audit?
of
Is
course.
mhm.
is the culture of Scientology has uh, labeled emotions to those things, good and bad, happy and sad. They've labeled emotions to some things. And so when you're doing something, all of a sudden it's you're bad or you're good or what you're doing is good or bad. And it's not an emotional thing. I hate to say it that way, but it just needs to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, and even like when we look at, some players that are out there, some advocates that are out there, and when they go kind of like, I'll call it rogue in the sense that all of a sudden they do come back. It's like sometimes I think, sometimes I hear it's part of their childhood because of the way they were brought up in Scientology. It's like sometimes we talked about cognitive age. Someone brought that up earlier. I forget which one of you guys brought that up about cognitive age, and it's like one of the things that I learned early on, early on in the sense of like, um, it was one time when everybody was here for the when Liz did the scroll, the receipts, and they did that time. There was a bunch of the kids here in LA, and that's when I met, and even my Serge met Serge Oblinsky for the first time. Going back to the parents, when I heard his story, it just killed me. I mean, it just really killed me. And then it's like what you're saying, Mona, about like some people don't feel like they're disabled. Serge, we know he lost his hands, and so he's got that disability, but he also has the mental wellness disability as well.
Is a
Where
cognitive.
yeah, what's
Yeah.
his cognitive age? What are some of these people's cognitive age? Where did they really stop growing? And where,
Hmm.
and that is that who they are today, yet in adult world, and doing their best that they can. So sometimes I like try to give the benefit of the doubt to some of these, advocates that are out there, just because like what they went through is not what I went through. And I had, my stories, but it's like I always try to keep that in mind. And with that said, what's your thought on this conversation?
On this,
Sorry, Audit.
no, no apology. That's great info. I have said from the beginning, and I always, and I thank God, I love the chat. They've always been so respect. They've been the wind beneath the wings, as we do our
Hmm.
things. But they've also been very respectful to like boundaries that I have to set for my own well-being. It's for my own emotional, mental well-being because I consider it like a horse race. I have to put blinders on because I'm in my lane and I need to run this race and I want to win that race. I don't want to be left behind. So there's going to be horses on other sides, around running the same race, but I have to have blinders on so I don't focus on what they're doing. And every now and then topics will come up, and I said, I need this boundary. I can't have it here. Everyone is welcome to, I respect everyone's, view, and I'm not, and I will be there for anyone. Like if anyone, if the police are doing something wrong or whatever, I'm always going to be there for anyone who's there, in the fight as far as, what
Right.
needs to be done, the right thing to do. I'm there for everyone. But when it comes to the personal things or anything like that, I, I can't because it's if I because it would be easy for me to get distracted and then be pulled out of what I'm doing and do something else. And then why would I want to sit there? I'm already considered right the big agitator, whatever, for Scientology. I already have their attention, which I don't like. All that stuff. Why am I going to? Then if I'm going to have Scientology like after me and upset with me, it's going to be because I'm doing the most impact against them. Not, they would want nothing more. They would be celebratory if I would screw the meetings and just get in, and discuss this, whatever, and get off track. They
Exactly.
would love that. I
Hmm.
can't do it. So I need everyone just to help me not do it, no matter what. I mean, like, and I know, like, sometimes people don't want to hear that answer. It's, but that's just it. I am so laser focused. I am so, and, I have to be that way because I have to do what I'm doing and I need it to get results because, it's going to keep, it's like a battering ram. We have to keep banging and banging. If I let that battering ram down to address other things, then guess who's not getting rammed? And guess who's going to be happy they're
It's
not
true.
getting rammed? That's just how I see it. So and I love everyone. I want everyone. Good even the Scientologist. I love everyone. I care about everyone. I just can't be involved with what everyone is doing. And if someone's at all, I just can't. That being said.
I love No, I love that, and that's the truth. It's like, that's my philosophy, because we never know what someone's really going through. We don't really know. For me, it's like once I was, attacked back in June, it's like the first thing I did for myself was I grabbed myself a wellness team. We were talking about tools in the toolbox.
Hmm.
One of my tools is I grab a wellness team immediately. I have a psychiatrist, I have a therapist, and we do work together every other week. I trade them off, and it was by me having this team that actually got me through this, because a lot of times when we see all this, information out there in this chaos, sometimes we don't know what really they're going through behind the scenes. And so I always try to have that passion, like what you're saying on it's like, you love everybody. That's kind of where I come from. It's like, people talk about, oh, the first gens, the second gens, the third gens, da, 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 da. Oh, they're like this and they're like that. Yeah, I've learned from each generation that I've seen out there, and I pull from what I see in it and bring it into where I am. And I use
Hmm.
those tools and use them as tools to understand, hopefully, what that generation is thinking at the time, or where they were coming from at the time that they got inducted into this. And then there's sometimes where I've had conversations with someone that used to be in there, and I may not agree with them, but it doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just that I don't agree with them with what my mission is. And so, yeah, I kind of agree the same thing. It's like, anybody knows that they can reach out to me. And if you're in the chat, you guys know you guys can always reach out to me. I'm always open, even if it's an argument or whatever it might be that's going on behind the scenes or whatever, or in front of the scenes or whatever. It's okay. It's you know what we all make mistakes. We all go through expansion. We all grow through this. So yeah, it's pretty, to be able to carry that sometimes is hard because, there are things that in the moment can affect us and we kind of get distracted. And that's when I say we get pulled out of our alignment because all of a sudden the noise got really loud over here and we're looking over there and all of a sudden maybe they're talking about us or they're saying stuff about, you know what? I say just disregard it because it's not about you. It's really about that person. What are they struggling with that they have to use you to tear something apart or something like that. It has nothing to do with your character, and that's really hard for us as humans, let's say, to be able to understand that, not to take things so personally when they do say things about me. I've had things, I had someone do a radio show all about me, and I'm like going, and they even had my voice supposedly, and I was like, what? I'm like, I mean, but this is like the I don't, did I go listen to it? No, I'm not going to give, I don't, it's not about me. It's about whatever that person wants to do. They can say I do flips backwards with, in a Speedo. Yeah, I may. I don't know. Can I? I don't know if I can. But I mean, it's whatever they want to say, right? Um,
Yes.
what has for we hear about this all the time, and we saw what happened to Laura's van just recently. And that's the magic now about us having all these cameras everywhere. Everybody's like, oh my God, we're being watched wherever we go. Thank God we're being watched wherever we go. Because when you saw that Laura did her homework and she went to the neighbors and got
Exactly.
footage and all that, they were able to identify this person who did it. And once again, an op potentially, of Scientology's, is it a, was this of, so, but at least we're able nowadays. It's like with technology, it's like like people don't even realize we have cameras everywhere now. We have them on our car, and I say this out loud so you guys know, if you're in chat, Scientology is, but we have cameras everywhere because we've seen how they target and they threaten or they do intimidation. What have you felt so far in those two things? Like, what do you feel like threats against you, audit or intimidation? What's been your experience so far with everything that
Oh yeah,
you?
we had some. I mean, and some of it is like, just weird coincidences, and you don't know for sure if it's them, but it really will. And I'll say like the one like right after I started going after the meeting, like 2 weeks later, we had our bank accounts wiped out, like literally. Somebody was able to gain our like debit cards in our names, but sent somewhere else and wiped us out. Thank God. I mean, everything was okay, but I was freaking out. I didn't want to say anything at the time, but I will say it now. And I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure, but it certainly made me take notice to say, this was like weeks, 2 weeks after we started the meetings. And just other things like we've had people come up, like, even Bike Guy's had incidences where people coming up to him, like weird stuff that this doesn't happen in the norm. And people reaching out to different people in your life, trying to say, hey, get her away, stop doing this, and uh, doxing you. Like there's, doxing you with other, there's somebody that was harassing me before and without even knowing what it was about, just trying to cause harm and promote that, and stuff like that. So it's just an attack. It is an emotional attack. And that's why I am, and I care about my safety because I do, I can't say I don't get scared and nervous. I mean, not scared, but I keep my head on a swivel because you just don't know. And where they are, and I think they use investigators and stuff, and it's just weird stuff. But I'm at this point that I'm like saying, well, you know what, time to turn the tables and figure out who they are. Who's everybody in OSA, what's their name, address, family history, what's,
It-
and get all the information and on detail. So let you
yeah.
know, so keep it up. Maybe I may know everybody who lives in all of your buildings and their names and their family name. Not just heads
Maybe,
up, maybe,
maybe,
possibly, maybe.
allegedly.
I might have a
Allegedly.
Leslie more information than you'd ever dream of because I used to be an investigator. But anyway, so And so that's how I handle it. And so also sometimes, like if they attack, like I feel like you have to sometimes go bigger, and I'm going to drop their names. That's why I'm dropping Janet Whelan's name everywhere, because I'm not going with whoever's starting this stuff. I'm going to go straight for the person who I feel is calling the orders. And now we know Janet's kind of not maybe calling the orders. She still has a lot of influence, but now we can get into maybe Olivia McDuff and what's her name, Susanna Johansson. I'm going to drop names because that's what I'm going to do, because then I'm not going to sit there and get scared and run away. I'm like, oh my God, OSA's after me. They're doing this. It's like, okay, they're doing that. But then I can either go be afraid or fight back. And I'm choosing fight rather than flight. At least right now I
Right,
am.
right, right. And it changed daily. What about you, Mona?
Well, I've had credibility issues back and forth. I've had a bank account and some credit cards messed with. That is true. That's their mode of operandi, I believe, is that's one of the things that they do, getting hacked. Um, my Instagram is no longer my. I won't go into that story because it's kind of funny. The OnlyFans, and I only did the OnlyFans because I wanted to see somebody else's, but I had to have it, and I've never posted on it. So if you guys see pictures of my feet running around, that's not me.
Oh my God, that's
Somebody
funny.
hacked my OnlyFans. So you, Osa.
Oh,
Yes.
So,
exact.
but anyway, that's just kind of a funny story. But I agree. I've always been in the past. I'm not a jouster. I'm not a you did this, I'm gonna do that, and then go back and forth. I'm gonna I'm gonna slay you. I'm gonna take you down. I'm gonna name your name, and I'm gonna I, I you're dead. I'm gonna take you out. Now, Serge taught me different, and Michael, I've been listening to you. You've taught me to calm down a little bit, not go for the throat, even though I want to most of the time. Something happened today. I wanted to go for the throat. And I said no, because I see it's OSA. I see what's behind it now. I'm using my brain a little bit, seeing this, and I see that it's OSA, and that's the throat I'm going to go for. That's
Yeah.
where I'm going to take them out. And so, like Audit, start naming names and telling the
Mhm.
truth. The truth is our weapon. The truth is on our side, and there's nothing wrong with giving truth. If there's a
Or
truth
names.
and it needs to be told, or names, that's right. That's what you need to do, and
Yeah.
go for the
Actually, they
throat.
don't even know that, like, technically, they're so dumb, and they think that no one has enough intelligence that we couldn't really, find out about all of them and every one of their people. Like, you can, and what you do with that information, like, it's not like I would want to, that anyone would do anything wrong with
Yeah.
that information. But whatever they do to us to find information on us, they're going to use it for evil. But we can use the same tools that they're using, and so it's so dumb that they would use those tools and try to terrorize us. But some people just don't get terrified, and it's like, well, the same tools are available to everyone, but you
What are
don't
they
need to
going to do?
use
Run me
it.
over and paralyze me? What
Right,
I
exactly.
know. Well, I get nervous about the safety
are
things.
they
I
going to
too
do?
have
Chop my
cameras if they
legs
did
off?
try to come in. I have camera.
Right.
Yeah, I'll
You
protect
never know.
myself.
We never know what they have up their sleeve. Let's move on here from this. What? So let's start with you, Audit. Why kids can't consent? Can you explain to me why it's so important for people to understand this in your eyes from everything that you see?
Yes, I mean, a child cannot consent to their own demise. Basically, going through auditing, going through whatever they go through in Scientology, the purips, all that stuff, it is leading to either it may be their physical demise, their mental health demise, their emotional demise, their whatever, their social skill demise, whatever. It all leads to a damaging of the person. Now, if you want to go at, you're an adult and you want to go throw your life away and, do whatever it is to be self-destructive, that's on you. but a child cannot legally consent to that. They can't consent to being a victim of a crime. And the state right now, the government doesn't want to acknowledge that what is happening is a crime, but it is. And eventually I believe that's going to be deemed like, because the laws are already written, it's already in the books. When you look at what Scientology does, it matches with what the crimes against children are. And you're not, they're not, they're being victimized, they're not consenting, and they cannot consent to to that victimization. Their parents or whoever's putting them in there, they're the ones consenting to it. And that's unfair, it needs to stop.
Yeah, that's one of the things I see with Serge all the time is like when he calls something out, he calls it out and it's like so true. And it's just like, these what these kids have been made to do at such an early age. I'm going from memory, which is not so easy sometimes. Is like I think Laura said that, or it was either Laura or Jenna that said that they signed the billion-year contract at 4 years old in a Crayola.
One of them did. Yeah, I remember hearing that.
And I sit there and I think
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God, and to hear those, and that's just, I mean, that's really not that big of a, when you think about it, a kid drawing something, their, name on a piece of paper is not a big thing, but when you think about it, all the other things that are behind that is, which is a horrible thing. What do you think about it, Mona, about why kids can't consent? What have you come to at this point where we are today?
Well, parents that have children accidentally or on purpose or planned have a job to raise their children to become functioning members of society, functioning, loving members of society. Children have a job to grow up to be functioning, loving members of society. And I got to say it, I know we try and keep it clean, but when you fuck with that, the kids cannot consent. And ditto what Audit said.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
and can I just jump in one? Then my turn. I get my one card to jump in.
Yeah.
The problem with the 4 year old, the 4 year old writing their, signing their billion-year contract in crayon, like that in its of itself is no big deal. What becomes the big deal is that they're held to it. That
Yeah,
contract will follow them for the rest of their life, even when they're out, because then they're the SPs. Like like they signed it, now they're out, so they're still living with that contract forever. And that's the insanity part, and that's what has to stop.
Well, it's even like what you say with that. It's like, they're living with that contract forever, even though they're out and they're away from Scientology subconsciously. They've been so programmed to think
yeah,
about it. I see that that still affects them. That all this stuff that they were, this child abuse, we'll call it, as these kids are not living an average, an everyday kid's life. They're living these structured, like they're working, they're not being able to grow up, like you said, as kids, normally grow up. I mean, I look at my life growing up here in Los Angeles and all the fun things and all the things I did as a kid, and I just had the most incredible time, growing up. And I look at Surges and I hear some of the things that he went through, and then I listen to Laura and I listen to the others, and I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, there is like this. There's this much life that they missed out on, which means that it's
yeah,
going to affect the rest of their life. And no matter how much you work with a team, it's still going to affect you down the line, because even there's things in my childhood that affects me day to day sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I got rid of that. But no, but I can't imagine. So, yeah. Now, I know when we started this, ladies, we talked about a time frame and needing to go. I'm actually going to not go to my next appointment so that we can continue on as long as you ladies are available to. So, how are you? I just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing, Mona?
Uh,
You're good? Audit, you good?
yeah, I could get like another half hour. I'm gonna have to. I do have it somewhere I do have to go, so I could probably do
Okay,
another half hour.
perfect. Okay, I just wanted to check in so I wasn't, not, honoring your space and your time. Okay.
No, I'm happy to be here. Actually, it's good to be talking
Yeah,
like
this
this.
is this is a
I
really
can't see the
great con.
chat though, so I have no idea. Hi to chat. I can't. I haven't been able to read chat at all, but I just
they've
want
been
Yeah,
chat to
saying
know
you are
they're.
absolutely beautiful today. They
they're
love
like,
your
oh my
hair and love your
God,
grit.
yep, they're like, look at the makeover Audit has. It's so beautiful. Yeah, pretty in red, or pink. Is it pink?
It's red today. It's red. It's
It's
like,
red.
no, it's like I'm
That's
just
what
Well,
sitting
they've
there
been
both,
like,
saying on it.
well,
oh,
both
but
of
tell
you
them
look
I
so
do. I love
beautiful.
chat. Chat's always I mean, they're actually to me like the encouragement, but there's two levels of encouragement. There's the encouragement of just the principals and and the victims and the survivors, but then there's the chat that's there with you when you're in the trenches and the encouragement to get so I always give my best shout outs and love to chat. So hi chat, even though I can't read what's going on
Well,
for
and
whatever
like what you're
reason.
saying. Yeah, what you're saying on it is so true because how many times I'll be doing a live, and this is like when I have been on the streets or, out and about doing a live, I get in the chat sometimes, God, I wish I could do more. No, you guys just being here is more. I mean, you guys
Yes.
just being here, supporting us, asking these questions, having conversations amongst yourself, and bouncing thoughts back and forth. And, what you guys have brought to the support that you guys have given all of us, we can't thank you guys enough. We love you, we want you to be
Yep.
here,
Yep.
and we do see
Mm.
the people in the chat that like to be the little disruptors and be a little like, on the negative side. I ask that you don't do that here, but I can't stop you from doing that here. But you know what, God bless you, and I hope you find peace and inner strength for yourself. If that's, if you want to be one of these YouTuber war persons, or whatever they call it, go ahead and be that. If that's what really makes you shine and makes you feel good about yourself, do that, but just really be conscious of what we're doing here with the kids. Our goal is like to help the kids. We're not here, the adults inside, they're adults. They could do whatever they want. It's just like we got to get the kids out. We saw just recently this last year, these two young girls running outside of Scientology, and you know, one of the girls, and thank God we had, people out there on the ground. There was Scott, and there was also Kelly was there too, I believe, and I don't know who else was there during
Yes.
this moment,
Mhm.
but it was like so important that these people were there at that moment. And I know sometimes people like, Scott's got a loud voice sometimes, and we talk about it all the time. But that's Scott, and you got to just like love him for who he is, and hopefully, we can get his energy in different. But that's him. It's what you guys want to do. But if he wasn't there, I have to say this: if he wasn't there, or Kelly wasn't there, what would have happened to those two girls? I can't
Probably the
imagine
same
what.
thing, but the eyes wouldn't have been on it,
The eyes would have
right?
been on it, and they may not have been taken back to the LAPD station. They may
Right.
have been just dropped back off at the front door of Scientology. So it's like everybody's helping, from the chat to the people that are out there that are loud sometimes. Everybody helps. So,
Can
thank
I
you,
tell you a
everybody.
little story about
Yes.
something that didn't happen at the Blue? Here's a win, you guys. Okay, so there were a couple of teenage girls that went into the Salt Lake City org. And we've been calling into the Salt Lake City councils also to discuss with them about kids cannot consent and no more kids in Scientology and the abuse is happening. And these two young teens went into the Salt Lake City org. They told who the recruiter, the person there, sorry, the dog's whining now, that they needed to go because they said they had arthritic hands. They needed to go cut their hands off. They told these girls that. They
Wow.
came out and the protesters, it happened to be Crazy Love and I can't remember who else was there. They came out and said, "Hey, so what happened or what's going on?" And they said they told us to go home and cut our hands off. And so she went and reported it. The next city council, I reported it and said, "Look, and I know Amy's called in there, Minnie's called in there, Audit's called in there. We've all been talking to the city council there, saying, look, the reason why we're coming and telling you, besides the fact that you just need to know about it, is because the police commission have a meeting. They have their meeting as needed, and they haven't had a meeting. And we went and made a complaints to the commission or to the police department themselves, and they said, "Oh no, they were just joking. They didn't really mean that." So they wouldn't even take the complaint. Well, guess who got fired 2 days ago? The chief of police in Salt Lake
Wow.
City fired. Bye, see ya, because he had been falsifying documents saying he was really having the meetings and was taking the complaints. So
Wow.
Wow. Yeah,
people
see?
calling in made a huge difference. That is a huge win. Sorry for the police chief. I don't know if there was collusion between him and Scientology. I have no idea. Won't even go there. But the fact is that people calling in and giving information made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Made a huge
beautiful.
difference.
Wow. Yeah.
And
But
it's the
then
only
once
way to
again,
get the city to know. Like, that's how we get the city people to know what's going on is through meetings. That's where they hear us. That's where we can speak or emails. So that's why it's really important for this. They're not go, you can't go to the city council and say, "Oh, watch this channel." It'd be great if they did, but chances are they aren't. So that's why even if it's only a minute, 2 minutes at a time, and we don't think that's a lot, little by little, you keep going or keep writing in or emailing, they're going to get the whole story. And it's the
Well,
people that can
the
have the power
mayor
to
was
change
at
it, getting it.
the mayor going to the city council meetings is like, what do you mean? What do you mean they're not having meetings? I get the reports. What do you mean they're not having the
Wow.
meetings? And he said he resigned, and she came on the air and said, "Oh no, you didn't resign. I kicked you out," or whatever the words were. But she made sure that people knew that it was a forced resignation.
See, that's different
So,
than how they do it in LA. LA, it's like, okay, they
yeah.
resign, hint, hint, wink, wink, but they keep it private. So that's interesting. I love it.
well, and like you said, Mona, about collusion, was there collusion there? Well, I remember
Mm,
I was at the Big Blue one day on LRH, and I was talking to this young officer, and he was new, he was a newbie, and he was there. And I was explaining to him why we were there, what we were doing, and what our goal was, and kind of filling him in so he got to know us a little bit. And he said to me, he goes, Michael, he goes, it's really hard because you want to be part of the crowd inside the force, and you want to be a supportive member, and they're putting all this information on you that you almost don't want to be a part of, but you're kind of forced to be a part of. So the collusion that's going on in the LAPD here, we see it. You see it. We see it. All you
Oh, yeah.
see. We see it on the meetings. We see it like when we went to the La Poubelle thing, when Officer White, calling a name out, comes pushing his authority around when he was out of his district. So it's like things like this, it is changing. It is changing. But I do want to continue on. I've got a list of questions here, and
okay,
um,
sorry.
no, 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 don't, no. There's no sorries, never. It's all this is all coming up from these questions. So, what do you think is the most important the general public needs to know at this point? Audit.
Well, what they need to know is that this cult has a stronghold on LA City for sure, but probably wherever they've been long established with any orgs, and that if they're new to a certain area, then they are working tirelessly to get a stranglehold on that government. That's what they do. They're an octopus that will just they it's like they say Operation Snow White was something that happened so many years ago. No, it's happening. It's just in different ways. They do it legally now through getting on boards, getting on commissions, probably getting jobs. We don't know how many LAPD officers are actual Scientologists. There could be a bunch. So that's what they do. And you need to know. And then you need to be armed on, what to do about it. And I could talk more later about maybe where I feel what we need to do right now, because what I see. And also you need to know that they use trickery, like right now, like they use language, they use like making the people who are doing the
Right.
right thing the bad guys. So we're the bad guys, we're the dangerous criminals, we're the harassers, we're the agitators, we're the ones that make them and so afraid for their safety. When in fact we're the ones that need to be afraid for our safety. It's the other way around. But the people need to see that it's because but there's like, no, they're religious bigots, and it's like, and so I think the community needs to wake up and realize what a cult looks like.
Beautiful. Yep. Well, and once again, like I was saying earlier, it's like how often I'm in a conversation with someone and I talk to them, and all of a sudden we get on the subject of Scientology, and they have no clue, or they heard, oh yeah, I heard it was kind of a little cultish or something like that, but they really don't understand the depths of it. And usually with a cult, you don't know the depths of it because they keep it so wrapped up. Mona, what's your thought on it for the public
Pretty
awareness?
pretty much the same, that the public needs to be aware that they've been deceived and buffaloed all of these years. For the last 70 years, they've been they've had a veil over their heads, and they've made the hiding of abusing children, abusing elders, and abusing finances and ripping everybody off. There's a veil, it's a hidden, it's the man behind the curtain, and nobody sees it because it's become normal.
Yeah.
They've just been, it's, I don't know the word for it. It's become normalized. And
Right.
so people don't see it anymore.
Plus, they
Yeah.
have
And
a
so that needs
wonderful
the
public
exposing
facade.
it.
They have the public facade, right? Like we're here to help
Yeah.
the police fight crime, and we're going to get rid of graffiti. We're going to get people off drug. Like they have such a public cleanups. Like they have such a great front facade. It's hard for the government to hate them because they're like, okay, nobody else wants to step up, so we're stepping up. So then the local powers that be are like, oh, this is great, but they're not invited behind the scenes. And then when you start talking about what's going on behind the scenes, like they're like, what? No, these people are wonderful. What are you talking about? Children locked,
Tell about
being going to
tell about
RPF.
the
And then,
conversation with White on the Christmas stuff.
about him saying that he was no longer going to do it, that it's not
Right.
worth it, and that he gets it now, and he's starting like that. But then he does go to the party, because it's like I
Yeah.
think there's that pull, there's that like right, yeah, like you were saying, Monty, like you have to fit
The
in, or
the good
But
old
then he
and
boys
so
said,
club.
he
Yep.
but the kids still need the presents, so help us think of an
right,
alternative. So
right,
as a
and
community, let's think of an alternative.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And there are alternatives already. But that was like an excuse because but yeah, won't even get me started about slow
Yep,
bikes.
yep, 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 yep. We're going to our next question, ladies. This will be a good one. And Scientology tactics. We'll start with Audit on this one, okay? Can you
Okay.
share how Scientology safe points the government officials and
Yeah,
why is
yeah,
that a
it's
concern?
it's very clear to see. Well, they do several things. Like I'll just use kind of like just say Janet. Janet is put into the two CPABs, which is the Community Police Advisory Board of LAPD. So she has to go through a process, but that means she has their ears. She gets to sit there and gets all this input from LAPD, but also gets a listening ear to be able, and build those relationships and bonds. And they do this with the bid. They do this with chambers of commerce, and they do this with the hospitals all around. And so they just make themselves so like we're here to help. But let us tell you, and then but then at the end, but then they build this relationship, and then it's like when they need help, it's like they can cry victim. They're the excellent at crying victim. Oh my gosh, we're being victimized, and you need to make it stop. Like we support you. We've been there, this and that. And even though you see them trying to, like I see through the CPRAs that even CD13, it felt like they're trying to push them away. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to do meetings. And even sometimes with the police, but they keep pushing and pushing and breaking it down and saying we deserve this. We're under attack. Like you're like the government's becoming a religious bigot. They've actually said they are so safe pointed the government to do their bidding, but yet they say they're being victimized by the city of LA because they get because we finally pushed them enough to get citations out. So now the city is a religious bigot against them too. But it's dangerous because the government is treating them with either kid gloves or favoritism, whatever, and but they don't treat anyone else or other entities like that. And for whatever reason, because they know what psychological buttons to push, oh, this is a religion. You're coming against a religion, and that's what scare people. That scares the government. They're thinking lawsuits and stuff, and so that's why it's dangerous because it works. It's actually very effective what they do.
what's
And
very
that's why
effective,
we
and
need to
they
unsafe point it.
Hmm.
right. Well, they even do it with their own members. You know, look at how many hours and hours of auditing that they have taped and videotaped by, you know, look at Serge was an auditor. You know, he's shared this so many times with us all about like how much information they've recorded, and then they use that information to say point their own people.
Hmm.
And so and it's like and with and Mona, so like when I first heard safe point, I'm like, what's safe point? It's like, what do you think about safe pointing, and what have you learned about safe point, and was safe point even like a term that you had in your world before you got into this?
Well, safe pointing isn't. I would never have used that word, but partnering, aligning, negotiating, sitting on boards and commissions and neighborhood councils, all of that isn't that part of normal being in chambers? That's part of business. That's how you do. You start working together with different teams and you align, and that's business. So L. Ron Hubbard was really good about stolen valor with all sorts of things. And parts of the business world, that's the infiltration of and the partnering and aligning with all sorts of different organizations to get your name out there, to get the relationships built. You know, you use Janet on the CPAB. She's been on the CPAB for 30 years, something like that.
Yes.
I think since it
Yeah.
started, since its
She's
inception.
probably OG. She's probably one of the founding members of the CPAB. And
Hmm.
people look at her when they come on the CPAB as the OG and the know-it-all. I mean, I'm in that position in a couple of boards that I'm on. And you build that relationship, and I can call anybody around the country on my board and say, hey, I need this. And they go, okay, Mon, no problem. And it's just the relationship that you build. So he, he's an idiot. He was an idiot, but he was an awfully smart idiot. Hate to say it.
Yeah.
Give him a little bit of
Well,
credit.
it's
Credit.
funny because I after being with Serge, I was one of my friends who is also from Mexico. His dad's here, and I don't know what brought up the conversation. I was over his house one time, and all of a sudden I just mentioned Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard and his dad, who's he's Mr. like kick back, have his tequila shots, and he just enjoys the day and just loves life. And then all of a sudden, when I said L. Ron Hubbard, he's like, "Oh my God, that crazy mother, blah blah blah." Right? And I'm like going, what do you know about it? Well, he actually met the guy and hung out with the guy through his friends, and they saw the craziness. And he goes, "We all thought he was crazy. We all saw what he was up to and the stories that he would come up with. And the fact that Scientology is alive today it floors him. He's like, how can that be? So just to hear from like someone like out, well, I'd never expected it from to say what he said, I was just like, wow. It's just like, yeah, he was, like Serge always says, he's a convicted felon, and
Mhm.
As you say
and
your next question, Audit, go ahead. I'll be right back. I got to go take care of the dog and let her out.
okay.
Okay.
Um, so let's go. Calling action and moving forward. Okay. You do a lot of this audit. You're always calling action. You're always you're like, okay, come to action, meet me at the meeting. Let's, sign on YouTube and all that. For people who feel passionate about being an advocate themselves and protecting the kids and this kind of, um, action that we're doing, what are some of the actions you feel like we were talking about our chat earlier and how important they are, and when they say, hey, what else can I do, what else can I do, what would be the simple, not simple, I hate to use the word simple, what would be the things you would say, hey, if you want to do one more thing, you could join me here, or what's your thought on that?
Yeah, well, I put out a call to action today for the meetings for this coming week, and I'm trying to get better at trying to explain how people can get involved because it could be overwhelming. Because I kind of, it took me a minute to figure out all the meetings, but basically, even if you can't you're not ready to come to a meeting, or or calling in, because now they're kind of shortening how much you can speak anyway. There's always emails, there's always, and also in the meetings they have, you can put in written comment, and sometimes that might be more powerful in a way, because you could probably say a lot more than you could in a minute, and it will get before the commission. So if you go to the public works meeting agenda and you want to put in public comment, through the written way, it will get to the commissioner. So and it becomes a permanent record. So don't put anything that you wouldn't want the whole world to see, because it's all public. But you could get your, especially, I'm really putting a call to the survivors, the kids, as you call them, because I feel we're at a point where, yes, we're kind of getting this inroad going with the meetings. They're starting to wake up to it. I feel like they're starting to get it in some ways, but they're hearing from advocates. They're not hearing from the people who actually lived it. And even just emails, like, I can, anyone can reach out to me, audit.in.la@gmail.com, if you want to say, well, do you have an email address, or you have, where is it best suited? Because I would love for, because I can't say, oh, I mean, I do say, hey, watch this channel, that channel, that channel. But the likelihood that they're even going to remember the channel or do it is unlikely. They're not likely. They're not. They may watch Going Clear. Who knows? But for you to, if you can email them, especially with the public comment, that gets right before their eyes and say, this is my experience. They may be talking about Scientology, but I lived Scientology. And let me tell you what I went through, that type of stuff. And and then just to be the support, like, just just the support that like I said, the chat already is. And the mods, like, thank God for the mods, and say, like, and it's, I love how the different mods have to go and kind of figure out everyone, because everyone's a little bit different. Every streamer's different, like, I want just focus on what we're doing, and I also want, and I also allow, like, a little trolling, because I'm like, I believe that everyone has the potential for redemption. So I live my life thinking that anyone can, that's why I try to have a lot of grace and patience for everyone. Because but even the trolls, because I'm like, they may learn something, like, at the very least. And I've had people who started off trolling, and then they get in, they find out about it, and then they become productive members of chat, so it happens. And so, so that's why I love my mods, and they're smart. They figure, they know. And so, and so these are all different ways you can help out.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And so what the question was, Mona, is like, getting involved for all the people that are in the chat that always say, I wish I could do more, I could do more. Audit just was explaining, different things that she's always doing a call to action on your side. What do you think?
I agree with the calls to action is to get more involved with calling in. I know Audit and I have talked several times about doing a mock board or commission meeting so people can call in as an example, and talk with us as being the board, and we can give them advice, because a lot of people are shy or hesitant because they don't know what to do or the protocol, and it's really it's hard for them to do. And so we thought we would do a mock board meeting, committee meeting, so that way people could practice if they wanted to practice. But just ask the question. Just say, how do I? They're all different. Every commission and every committee meeting is different. They have different rules. They have different procedures, different ways to get involved with it, and kind of through experience, what we've learned, we've had to learn too. We didn't know it going in, and but ask and say, hey, what do I do here? What should I say? Be more than happy to help. I'd love that. I would love to help.
I love that to do that. I mean, because like I remember when once again the kids were in for the when we had the receipts and when they were walking around that weekend, they one of the things that someone filmed was Serge doing an audit on somebody because people didn't really understand what it looked like or what it sounded like that,
Yeah.
and the response people had when they saw that, where they were just like, oh my God, I pictured it this way, or I'd never even, so it's like, I think that would be great to do kind of like a little, like, what you're talking about, do a live or something like that and have some, I don't know how you would arrange that, but I'm down for that. Okay.
I would
Now
actually
I know
like
we're
that clip. Can I get that clip? Because I would send that out. See, because people don't understand what audit. They think auditing is something different. Because like auditing in the police, it's very different from what you're talking about. So I would love like to
Right.
get a video of what Serge giving that example, and I'll send it to everybody. You know, every
Yeah,
commission,
I
everything.
forget who filmed it, but I'll find out and I'll send it to you so then you guys can share it
Yes.
again because it was pretty powerful and people were like who were in the hot seat getting audited, they were just like, you know, you see the reaction. They're like, what? Huh? Like, how can you be asking me this question? Well, this is what they ask. I just we're coming up on the hour. I know you have to get going here shortly. I have a few more questions I'd like to run through real
Yeah, I
quick.
could
So
probably
let's
do
try
like
to.
another 10. You're right. I think. I mean, I could probably push
Well,
it for 10, but when they call with it, then I'm gonna have to probably go. But until we can go until.
Okay, so let's run through these questions. I've only got, let me see here. I've got like six, seven more questions, okay?
Okay.
And so
speak fast.
let's yeah, let's make it fast. Let's go legislative efforts. What can the chat and people do for that? Are there any laws or anything like people can start supporting, or what do you think about that, Mona?
Well, we already had one that we submitted and we're still waiting to hear back, and that's the Obolinski law. But if you think of local laws, because laws just aren't federal, they are local too. Local laws, local policies that need to be changed, maybe labor laws, start throwing ideas out there. It doesn't hurt. What are they going to do? Say no? They're going to say no. But that gives you feedback to either redo it or think, well, maybe there's already a law, you just don't know about it, and somebody just hasn't brought it to the surface. So just
Don't be
I have a
afraid. Yep.
yeah, I have a
And
morning
we can help
sunshines
you.
every morning, and if you were to come on my morning sunshines, we talk about stuff like that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And
Uh,
I'm trying to get a law locally because like the Obolinski law is one, but locally I'm going to try to and maybe this is where people can back me up with letters once I do it, is I'm going to ask city council to make a law limiting the number of special event permits. You know, it should be I'm saying 12 a year. Once 1 week in a month for a neighborhood to lose its street is more than enough. Like really, that's even too much. But and so I am going to be pushing it and for that, and then we'll see how it goes, you know. But that kind of support too, say, hey, yeah, I want to, push. That would be great. And if you have other laws and you don't know how to work it or who to contact, call me. You know, like let me or Mona know. We're going to help you.
Beautiful. Yeah, you guys in the chat, if you have any of these questions, we've been flashing their email, their contacts, and all that as we're going through the day here. Feel free to reach out to them. They're always there. They're more than happy to be able to help and bring you onto whatever they're working on if you want to be part of it. And just don't be afraid to reach out because it's those baby steps that will get those bigger steps, and it takes all of us to step together. Um, the next thing is. Audit, going forward, personal advice for those who have left Scientology now that you've seen everything that you've seen and that are still struggling and will continue to struggle. What would be your advice would you give?
Be gracious with yourself, be understanding of yourself and others. Like really, to me, the solution is love. You know, hate is so easy, division is easy, arguments is easy. Love is hard. It's a bigger challenge, to love your enemies. That's what one of my guiding principles, love your enemies. That's not easy. That's really hard. But and we may fail miserably all the time. But if we even strive to be, say, decent to people we don't understand or who are different and be decent to ourselves. Like it's so sometimes we people can be so filled with self-hatred or just be easy, give yourself grace, give others grace, and keep plugging, never quit. That's one thing, never give up.
Never gonna Mona,
Ditto.
you know.
I'll make it
Really?
easy on you. That's
Well,
very
no, but it's
powerful. Ditto.
it's true. I say this all the time. Give yourself grace, like you're saying. It's like give yourself grace. You guys are so strong, and I see it. Yet there's moments even like in myself that I know that I need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We're here to help. And if you can't find it from us, we can probably point you to a direction that maybe you can. Don't be afraid to build yourself a wellness team. I mean, that right there for me is golden. And, I've done this throughout my life where when I hit these moments and things get a snag, I unravel it as quickly as it possible because, it's still going to be there. I mean, it's still like there's times where all of a sudden I'll see a LAPD officer next to me and it just like without me even realizing I'll have this PTSD from it and I'm like, and I have to give myself love and say it's okay, feel the moment, let's walk through it, let's see what just triggered that, and let's go forward. So everybody give yourself love. The next question,
Yes.
Mona, what do you see the future vision for No More Kids in Scientology in the next 5, 10 years?
I don't give them 2 years.
Love it.
I told you I'm a warrior. I'm a slayer. I'm not here to play a game. I am very unabashedly competitive. And when somebody says something needs to happen, I want it to happen. And so I don't give them 5 years. I give them 2 years at the most.
Beautiful. I love that. Audit?
It's for me, it's really beyond. In 5 years, 2 years, I'm going to agree with Mona. No more kids in Scientology. In 5 years, no more Scientology. I'm sorry, they are too abusive to the community, to the society. That it's beyond the point of saying, okay, well, I'm an adult, I can consent to this. No, you really can't consent to being, to hurting humanity and hurting and like slave labor and all this stuff. So unless they totally revamp it to where they live within societal, what's okay, no slave labor, no abuse, no, leeching off their seniors, no, putting their people in their own prisons, like all these things. No, it's for me, it's all gonna go in 5 years.
Yeah. I kind of, from when I first
Thank
met
you,
Serge
sweetie.
and yeah, first met Surgeon came into the, and started being an advocate for the kids and all that. What I've seen happen in the time that I've been with Surge and with all the other kids and all the other activists have come on and just, I've seen such a movement and I see this, OSA's using kind of old technology, if you ask me, in their tactics, and they come from old technology. They're, it's like, so they're not, so their tactics are kind of like they're kind of falling apart here and there, and you see it. Like look what happened with Laura's van. That fell completely apart. I mean, look at what happened with Danny with the guy on the scooter. I mean, my very first day there, he tried to attack me, and I just thought he was a drunk guy on a scooter, But it's like it fell apart because I had it on video, and we have it on video. So I love that. So okay, so the
And
next,
the guy with the dog too. Remember, like he's in legal trouble now. So the people they're sending people that are getting in trouble themselves for other things.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, Okay, I've got four more closing questions here. Um, Mona, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned in your journey so far?
That's multiple choice, multiple answers, but the biggest lesson is that it, that I need to find grace for myself, and that when I need help, I should ask for help, and that I have a lot of love for other people that I didn't know that it really existed so much because I've always been such a business person. And this is different. This is a different level. Didn't even know half this stuff existed. So finding more love within myself has been pretty cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
beautiful.
biggest lesson.
That's beautiful. Audit?
For me, I guess it's that, for me, God is good and He gives courage because like before I even joined, it was like the summer before. My friend's like, you know what? Like we passed the Scientology building. He goes, "You're going to be protesting Scientology." He goes, "I just know." I'm like, "I would never." Like I had heard by then like they're scary or whatever. I said, "I would never in a million years do that. I'd be too afraid. I don't want to put myself out there publicly. I am not somebody who would ever want to be on camera. Like that would never happen." And then he laughs to this day because like 6 months later, guess what I was doing? And I'm like, how did he know that? I don't know. But and as far I had to overcome, I guess, my reluctance, because I'm not the type that wants to be on camera. I'm not the type that was going to be a streamer. I wanted to do like little comedy skits and stuff behind the scenes. I was not the one to go do that. But the fight, like with this battle, it's you have to, because we have to get the information out. The camera also protects us, and it's just part. So I had to overcome, and I learned that I could. Like I learned that I can be brave enough or bold enough, and because I always consider myself, I don't consider myself as a terrified person. I always, but I didn't have that kind of bravery, especially because, like, look, I mean, how I look, I'm very insecure in a lot of ways, and I didn't want to put myself out there at all. But I don't know, something about that grace, and you do what you
Some
got to
And
days
do.
it's
she's
some days it's brevity, some days it's stupidity.
well, and as she's like sporting the red lipstick and red
I know,
blouse,
right?
killing it today. I love
I
it.
don't
Okay,
want to be on
It's funny, not an
camera.
I
ounce
don't
of
want to be
makeup. It's
on.
like I don't know what I
I
was
did
looking
my
like. It's
I
like
don't want
like
to be on camera.
exactly. Hey,
well,
okay,
you notice I put my camera like it's everything's always forward. It's not on me, so it's this stuff's so
right.
hard. But you know what? We're gonna do it. We're gonna overcome these barriers and
Well, I know you've
insecurities.
said that since I've met you. You've been like, no, 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 and then all of a sudden now you see you're all over camera. I love it. It's like and that's what we learn here. We learn to love
It's fun.
ourselves and grow. I love that. Okay, three more questions, ladies. Um, if you could send one message to the public about No More Kids in Scientology and your advocacy, what would it be, Mona?
That especially the kids that were in Scientology that have grown up, that your suffering wasn't for naught and that your voices are so important and that your love for the children that are still stuck in there is so important. It's my biggest message.
Beautiful. Audit?
Well, for the community, I want the community to say, to know that childhood and the innocence of childhood needs to be protected. And a lot of times we all turn blind eyes on other people's suffering, or we don't even know they're suffering. But, where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire where there's smoke. And so we're putting out a lot of smoke, right? And so my advice to the community was like, well, find out where that smoke is coming from. Is there a fire behind it? And look into it. Every child deserves the adults who are, to not turn a blind eye or deaf ear, and just look into it. And if you can find a way to help, and you find that there is a problem, don't just sit there and do nothing. Do something,
Yeah.
whatever that something is for you.
Right. And when you say like fire behind you, fire in front of you, what popped in my head? Careful, you might be standing on fire. You don't know where it's coming from with these people. Okay, we've got two more questions here. Um, Audit, are there any shout outs or advocates or organizations you'd like to give a shout out for their work in this space?
For in this, well, it's all of, I want to shout out to everybody who's doing it. But I also want to I like to give a shout out to, at the meetings, it helps me, get through. And sometimes it's the fun and banter with, like, Smoke and Scan. I love them. They become my second, like a family at these meetings, because I love them, because what he does is, like, it's a really fun space, and he's watching the meetings in his chat. They're watching the meetings, and they're seeing all the nonsense. So it's taking all the nonsense that you think is in private at city council and taking it to he's like, I got 100,000 followers. So it's getting way out there and outside of their control. Like, they want to be able to control their little TV, their TV, and you're going to watch it through here. No, people are watching these meetings through Smoke and Scan, through myself, through the Gadfly Herald. I mean, I don't, if anyone remembers Sister Paisa, she would come to the meetings. She had to leave the area, and there's just different, I guess they call them the Gadflies, or people that they're not part of the Scientology per se, but like, even like the other day with Shirt Guy being at the meeting, and and F-bomb guys, I thought, like, mentioning, like, there's a problem with Scientology. Why are you not listening? Like, they're yelling at them, why you're not listening to them. So the gadflies that are willing to give us a shout out at the meetings, I appreciate that. So I'm giving them a shout out.
Yay.
The Gold
And
Puppet too,
Mona?
all of them.
Yeah.
Good. I could probably sit here all night. Amy M, Miriam, Ganja, Audit, Juju, Gigi. We all have code names for everybody. And just everybody that calls in YRB, we have a community of us that talk and walk through this, and we all it, what a wonderful community. T just I'm forgetting people. I'm sorry. It's a wonderful, wonderful group of advocates that have come together to do this.
And they're
Yeah,
also I thought you meant outside of us, but within the group, yes. Every name mentioned, and
Agus.
this, yes, and they're just
well, just
amazing. Kirby's mom, all of them, every last
Yeah.
one of them. And to see
yeah,
them
I
develop and grow, starting off like, oh, they're maybe nervous calling it, and then to see them grow and the boldness and Miriam and all like all the just different things. Makes it fun too and enjoyable. Like that we're working together, like that everyone's getting involved.
well,
One
and
day
I
we'll get
just
Peter.
Peter, right? Exactly. Well, I just say to everybody, it's like, for everyone who's been an advocate, for everyone that has a channel out there, whatever direction you're going in, just, stay focused and just, I shout out to all of you because all of it makes a difference. And the more focused we can be, the better we're all going to be at the end of this chapter. But yeah, I just say everybody in the chat, everybody with channels, everybody that's fighting with each other, you all have made a difference. So keep making a difference and remember why you're here. Last one, staying connected. How can people support you and what you're doing, Mona, today?
Email is the best. I received a couple of emails. I see a couple of names in the chat here that I will get back with you that I received today. Very important emails. So emailing is best, but just having more brains, like when we talk in the mornings or when we chat during our meetings, having 50 brains is better than just mine. And I honestly have a TBI. I have ADHD, and sometimes my brain just goes, done. We're done. That's done for the day. And please give me the same grace as I'm going to give you. So that's all I ask is let's all work with the theory R. Respect relationships and reliability equals results. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Audit?
Yeah, you can always email me too. I appreciate the input. I love information. Anyone wants like they want to send me info, I'm all for it. And suggestions, whatever it is. I try to answer every email. I try to at least respond to it. It gets, like now I guess things get more busy. It may get harder, but please know, like I try, even though I try to answer every comment. If I don't, it's not because I'm ignoring or anything. It's just, sometimes there's only so much time in a day. But I really try to do that because I really appreciate the input, the camaraderie. Like if you're taking the time to comment and you're giving me your idea, like I want to hear what you have to say. I do appreciate that. And I love it when people are sending me like, hey, I found this, or, like, I don't know if this is important, but you never know what's not, send it, because I would like to know. I'm naturally curious, like I said, and I need to the information. Or sometimes also really another thing that can really help is like clips. I don't have time to go digging for clips. Like if someone like what I'm saying, what Serge did with the auditing, I really would love to have that clip. I can't go looking for it. But if there's people that can, have like if I'm putting it out there, what I'm looking for, and can go find it and send it to me, oh man, that's gold. I appreciate that so much. And that's all I can think of right now.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it's like in like exactly what these ladies are saying, everyone, Audit and Mona, is like the fact that sometimes you guys may want to like share something with us and you may think that, oh, well, I don't really need to share that. That's not that big of a deal. Everything's a big deal because we don't know what hidden thing we're going to find in what you share with us. Sometimes it could be the key that unlocks a door that we've been trying to open. So if you stumble upon something or you hear something or you want to be a part of the community and help us, like Audit says, if you guys have that clip, find it, send it to her. those are the little things that you guys can do, because like some people are always like, I get a lot of times where people will say, "Hey, Michael, did you see this? Did you see my live last night? Did you see my?" I don't have that many eyes to see everybody's lives, so I rely on my people that it's the playground that I play in. I go out to my girls and my ladies and say, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? What's your opinion about this? Did you see that? What's your thought?" So I always reach out to you guys. You guys are so important. So I have a closing comment here that I want to share. Is like, protecting the children isn't just a mission; it's a responsibility. Kids can't consent, and they shouldn't be forced to be into a belief system, practices, or organizations that they don't understand. I mean, today we've heard powerful stories from Audit, LA, and Fat Granny, our lovely Mona, who have courageously stepped into this advocacy for these children, and they're doing this day in and day out. I see it all the time. You guys see it all the time. The fight for no more kids in Scientology continues, and together our voices can really make a difference in what we do, and and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, because you guys got to remember there's kids in there right now that can't stand up for themselves, and that's why we're here. No more kids in Scientology. So until the next time, you guys, I'm literally Michael. Thank you so much today, everybody, for being here. Audit, Mona, you guys, I love you guys.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much
Love
for
you too,
all that
Michael.
you've
I
done.
love you
Yeah,
too. I
what you
love you
guys
too,
have done
Chet.
is just been so amazing. Chat, thank you. Everybody, our mods, always thank you for jumping in. Until the next time, stay safe, stay compassionate, stay loud for the kids. Really, stay loud for the kids. That's all we ask. I'm Michael, you guys, and I'm out. Have a beautiful night, guys. Bye.